Welcome to an episode of We're All Here Together. In this series, I sit down with blank papers and just see what comes up to say. If anyone has any requests from the audience, that's just me right now. Let's see, so does the audience have any requests? Okay, there's people. Hey, good morning. So today I'm going to talk about, let's see, does anyone have a topic in mind? This is blank paper broadcast. Let's see what topic comes to me. Faith. I always want to talk about faith. And why wouldn't I, right? So let's talk about faith. Faith to me is actually the recognition of what is true. It is not an active thing. It's more the removal. It's what remains after you stop doing what actually doesn't make sense. So let's look at that in a drawing. And while we're here, I'd like to breathe. So part of my intention in these broadcasts is to actually share kind of what I can hold in my own body around what is. So from what I can tell, unlike this all conjecture. Is that the right word? No, this is what comes to me to say, and I am always open to be wrong. I'm open to hear, what I'm not saying or what I'm saying wrong. But in the meantime, I'll just lead with what comes to me to say. So if someone has been to Peru or even a new coffee shop down the street and they tell you about it, they're offering you a level of experience that kind of makes it real. If they read about those things, what they're offering you is kind of it's not the same vibration. They haven't been there. They can't really hold. It is. A lot of the stuff that I'm telling you is because I've experientially been there. In fact, if I haven't experientially been there, I'll say I read this or I think this is. Experientially, I have seen that. It is, we are, I am. And so my intention with these broadcasts is to offer some of that. And if you're open to it, you could have the intention where you want to remember. That's my point. I want to foster the remembering of life's true nature. And that, again, just like faith, it's not doing something. It's actually revealed when you stop doing something. And so what are you stopping doing in faith? You are stopping believing in the unreality of your thoughts and the incompleteness of thinking. So here is brain, my more artistic renditions. And in this moment, faith to me is the recognition that the stories, doom and gloom stories that you're telling yourself might not be true. God bless our little melons. So much of what they're doing is just repeating patterns of thinking that are from fear and some of it is learned individually. You listen to your parents complain, you feel the adults around you be worried about money. You individually can pick up fear-based thinking and feeling. But as a culture, collectively, oh buddy, we're swimming in it. And so from this moment, whenever you're entertaining information, you're generally entertaining it with patterns of thinking that are learned in fear, where to me, fear is separation. It's saying me and life aren't on the same team. God is not good. The universe doesn't love me, essentially. And so you're kind of on the defense and you're afraid of what will happen. And that also comes from, sometimes stuff does hurt. Sometimes life does hurt. It seems like we're on, as humanity, it seems, and there's probably multiple timelines like running through this station, multiple trains going through the station, but one of the trains at least is towards the recognition of oneness, which to me is saying like, hey, oh, bud, like, hey, wow, we're all here together. And not only that, but we're existing within a field of information that is not separate from us either. And fear is saying I'm separate from life, and fear also comes from separation in the moment, where if you're present wholly, likely you're not exposed to some kind of like threat. But when you have some level of self-reflection, an idea of the self, then you can start to have fear about the self. Being present, being in a meditative state, being in flow is the closure of separation. It's an experience of oneness. You don't have survival concerns there. You are, it is. And so to me, fear comes from separation. And when you're in your moment, so if you're just joining, what I'm talking about today is faith. Faith is, as I'm kind of trying to write, as I'm getting to, is when you stop believing that the stories that you're telling about now, the forecasts that you're making from this moment, are the gospel truth, because they aren't. Even if you are psychic as fuck, and I am blessed to have gifts and no gifted psychics, it moves. So which is to say, like, you don't know the future. And if you want to make yourself miserable about where you think you don't want it to go, you certainly can. So the way that I work with clients on this is, usually I'm working with people who have really strong, quick minds, and they usually think that's some kind of liability. They feel overwhelmed by their thinking or stuck in their heads. I usually start by saying, it's okay, babe. Like, isn't it great? Isn't it cool? You have so much horsepower up top. And then we look at what, if you're overthinking the future, if you have fear instead of faith, likely, and I hope I stop using the hurricane example, because it's let's breathe for a second, because part of me is expecting one this year, and I'd rather not. But actually, let's use that one. Good morning. So, to me, to apply this principle and still satisfy the needs of an analytical, action-oriented mind, somebody who's proactive, wants to do it, you kind of let it both be true. So I have a little split here. And using the hurricane example, what I'm saying about faith, today I'm talking about faith, is that you allow yourself to do whatever you think you need to do and can do. If you can't do it, you can't do it. So it's not on it doesn't make the cut. But if you can do it and it's reasonable to do it, you do it. So with the hurricane example, let's say you have fear. You're worried. Well, what if you allowed yourself to take preparedness steps? What if that's stocking the pantry? What if that's, having kind of like a clear exit path, whatever. So you take the actions that your mind is like, well, the worst case scenario or something I don't want might happen. Okay, great. Allow yourself to enter that world, see what needs to be done, what actions you can take and want to take or can take right now. And then beyond that, you put that shit down. You put it down. You've addressed it as best you can. And from there, you allow yourself to entertain other possibilities. My favorite phrase this week I read in an oracle deck is, what you contemplate, you actualize. Fucks, yeah, you do. Fucks, yeah, you do. And from a very basic standpoint. So, we can come at this from thought is energy, emotion is energy, and that itself is creative in this physical realm. Or we don't even need that. What we can look at is the role that perception plays in interpreting reality, which then determines what you think you can do, which then determines what you can do. For example, if you perceive, if you're looking and you don't see how you look, that's why I recommend working with somebody. You can work with me or you can work with somebody else you love and trust, but you cannot see how you see. And yet that is the greatest determinant in what is available to you. So if you are looking from a place of not feeling like you're enough, what you will see is downstream from that. And then on top of that, you will apply these different ways to like what you look for, what you look at, how you talk about it, all of those things are learned. And so you walk into your reality from with your lenses, and then from there you start to interpret things, and then you respond to your interpretation of reality. And that is how, like, that little room, there's room there. There is room in the interpretation. And I generally teach it as like the cha-cha slide. Is it cha-cha slide? Slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, you know that one? Because you buy into your initial interpretation, but your initial interpretation, I'm sorry to say, is not objective reality. It's just the way that you learn to interpret it. And if you can slide to the left and then slide to the right and see what is from a different angle, make space for another possibility. Well, what if the hurricane dissipated in the ocean? What if the email they didn't respond to meant that they were thinking about it more? What if this relationship that ended allows for me to step into more of myself? Like, you get so caught on the first interpretation and start to work it, and in the working of it, you generally close off relief, growth, change, and other possibilities, because it's not the only reality. And again, like, that's a very grounded thing. When I say the other reality, y'all know, or might know, that I feel that, experience that, there are other times and places and other riffs on this experience right now. It is a little trippy, but you don't even need to buy into that to see that perception influences the world that you live in, which then determines, again, like, what actions you take, which determines what results you get. So you don't even need to be on board with, like, thoughts create things to see that the way that you look at it influences your life. Creates. So today I was talking about faith, and I was saying, like, well, faith is actually nothing you do. It's what remains when you stop doing what actually isn't accurate or true. And that means, like, forecasting doom and gloom onto the future using the information that you have. And faith to me is a surrender of the story that you're bought into that you don't want. And faith is saying, I allow the intelligence of life. It does seem like, and I've been in the lab with this for a minute, it does seem like, hey, oh man, I haven't seen your name in a little while. I probably couldn't say it, but I hope all is well on your side of the world. Faith is saying, like, where was I? Oh man, I got so excited I put down my little thought. It'll come back. We'll breathe in the meantime. Okay, anyhow, it'll come back. It generally does. What I had been talking about today was what remains when you stop believing in fear-based thinking. And one way to start to allow for more faith in your life is to have, like, a split process. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where you allow yourself, if you have an inclination to think of all the things that you don't want and that won't go right, great. Okay, great. Fuck yeah, sit down, write down what you would need to mitigate the result of those things. And then if you can take those actions, take them. And if you can't, accept. And from there, once you have done that all on paper, do you really need to keep thinking about what you don't want? Do you really need to keep thinking about where it shouldn't go? And in the space that remains, if you're not doing that, if you have the discipline, and you can develop it, you can generally, if your mind is out of control, it's not about your mind, it's about your emotions. If your mind is racing, I wouldn't try to chase it with your mind. If your mind is racing, use your breath, use your body, and start to bring yourself to a state that's more present. I think there's a Gene Keys or Richard Rudd quote that's like, no thinking can fix fear thinking because fear exists because of thinking, something like that. Which is to say that you allow yourself to take the mitigating steps, or at least identify them, accept the ones you can't take if you don't have the money for it, the time for it, the skills for it, whatever, the control over it. And you then allow yourself to come back into the possibilities that are wanted and start to contemplate and play with those. And I was saying, what you contemplate, you actualize, is one of my favorite phrases this week. And I was saying that you don't need to believe that thought is energy. It is. Or that emotion is creative. It is. For it to be true that how you think about things creates your reality, because how you identify, how you perceive, what you look for, how you look for it, and the ways that you talk about it all create an abstraction of reality within yourself. That's how you think things are, and you will respond to how you think things are. Which is to say, you create your reality with your little melon. That's like if you walk into a room and you think that you're not wanted, or if you walk into a room and think that you're supposed to be there to network, the choices that you make with the room are informed by those ideas. There could be a bunch of other stuff available in that room, but if you walk in with those things, that's the experience that you'll have. That's the choices. Those are the choices and actions that you'll take or make, and then that's the result that you drive. So all of this is okay. So today, in summary, I was talking about faith, and I was saying faith is really like, you don't have to do anything. Faith just feels. They usually Pinterest. Pinterest is usually like faith or fear, And so what I was talking about today was how to work that to your favor. And working that to your favor is basically acknowledging that faith is what remains when you stop doing the stuff that causes fear. All right, I'm wrapping up. Thanks. Does anybody have anything before I close? I'm just happy to be back out again, to be honest. Not just happy, not just. That wasn't a full statement. Full thought. Should I do it again? I might do this again because I think I could do it faster, but we'll see. All right, everybody, have a beautiful day. Thanks for stopping in.